Hi everyone,
pencil.
welcome
This one's
to
a blue
part
pencil.
2, so let's
We'll
continue.
easily go over felt pen, and again you can shade with different coloured pencils, so you don't need different coloured markers for that. And what about just some ordinary chalk? Give it a bit of a highlight on the top there, like that, and one there, like that. Good effect, isn't it? Try it yourself. Experiment with felt tip pens.
Colouring in.
You know, when you're colouring things in, do you try to get things absolutely perfect? Well, why not try something completely different? A different way of colouring in, and you can get some great effects. Now, here's a picture I've drawn in pencil, just a very simple picture. I've just drawn the outlines, and I'm going to show you several different ways to colour it in, all very simple, all very different, and all very effective. Now, I'm going to start by colouring in with curly scribble. Now, it's just a case of colouring in between the lines, like you would normally colour in your picture. Colour each section in, like this, only instead of doing it perfectly, do it using curly scribble. Now, I say perfectly, you've got to get this a little bit perfect. The idea is to try to make all the curls on your scribble roughly the same size. So try not to vary the scribble too much. And it's just a case of colouring each section in like this. And then when you get to the end of one section, change colour and do another section. But don't vary your colouring style. Don't change your style at all. Just again, colour in with curly scribble. And if you colour the whole picture in the same way, all the different bits using curly scribble, it looks like this. And if you've coloured it in using felt tip pen, when the ink is dry, if you just rub out those pencil outlines, it looks something like this. And I think that looks really good. It looks like one of those French Impressionist paintings. Good effect, that. Okay, same picture, different effect. This time I'm going to colour the picture in using straight lines. Now, you can use a ruler for this if you want. It's just a case of drawing straight lines across each section of your picture. Keep all the lines going in the same direction for each section of your picture, and use the right colour, obviously. But if you want to do some shading, then instead of using the darker colour, you just put more lines in, like that. See that? A few more lines in there, and you get this nicely rounded effect. And then colour the rest of your picture in the same way, using straight lines going in all directions, and you'll end up with this. And again, if you've done the picture in pencil outline and the colouring in pen, then just rub out your pencil outline and you get this sort of geometrical effect. And I think that picture really zings. I think that's a great colouring in technique. Okay, how's about a crazy colouring in technique? Same picture again, only this time I'm going to colour it in using words.
Words?
No, I'm not mad. You watch this.
Oh.
I'm simply going to write the words for whatever it is I'm colouring in. Banana. And I'm going to keep writing banana on the banana. And you can write it as big as you want, or as small as you want. But just keep writing it in. So it's a case of writing in the word for each section. And you can overlap the writing. Just colour in each section with its word. So that's banana for banana. And that's more bananas for the other banana. And then you can do apple, pear, orange, vase, and continue to colour in the picture using the word for each section. And when it's finished, it looks like this. And this time, I'm not going to rub out those pencil lines. I think that looks really good as it is. Crazy, actually. And you know, you can experiment with lots of different ways of colouring in. What about colouring in with curved lines? Or go a little bit loopy and colour in with spirals? Or you could go rather dotty and colour in with dots. Try it yourself. Crazy colouring in.
Right.
Okay, I want to move on to something that you probably only think of for writing with. A boring old pen. Now, it doesn't matter whether that means a ballpoint type of pen or an ink type of pen. Most people only use them to write with. Well, they're missing out on a big thing, because they're both brilliant to draw with. You can do some fantastic doodles with ballpoint pens. Real quick draw stuff. Look at this. Great for cartooning. And the good old ink pen is fantastic for shading. Because while the ink's still wet, you can give it a little smudge. It all helps with that shading effect. Look at that.
Ballpoint pen.
You know, one of the great things about an ordinary crayon is all the different tones and shades that you can get from one colour.
Oh, we've
just by
seen this
pressing
before.
lighter and harder.
We've
And what
seen
happens
this
if you
thing
haven't got a
before.
crayon? If all you got is a felt tip pen, well, you can't press harder or lighter with that because the ink all comes out the same. Try this. Just draw lines across the area that you want to shade darker.
This was in
all the way across
the
like that.
episode.
And you can see it starts to look darker already. And if you put lines across those first lines that you've just drawn in the opposite direction,
It had been a long time
in
since
the
we
middle like
saw
that,
this
it
base.
starts to look even darker. And this method of shading is called cross-hatching. It's literally shading using lines that cross each other. Now I want this area to be darker still, so I'm just going to put more cross-hatching on, this time in another direction. There it is. You don't have to be neat doing this. And just, again, cross-hatching there, doing
Oh,
lines
excuse me.
that go in the opposite direction.
I had something in my
And to
throat.
make it even darker, it's a good idea to just put your lines closer together. And there it is. Now, one pen that's really good for practicing your cross-hatching is just an ordinary ballpoint pen, because you can draw really quickly with it. Watch this. Now, I'm just going to go across the whole of the area on this policeman that I want to shade. So I'm just quickly going across like that. And also on this leg here, I mustn't forget his boots. Now I want this side of him to be darker still, so I'm going to cross-hatch right across the right-hand side of him. There he is, like that. Now there's certain areas I want to be even darker. Places like his belt. Just go in there with even more cross-hatching. And then his boots, like this. And again, you can do this neat if you like, or you can do it quite quickly. It all adds to that sort of arty effect.
There is your notification from
And
Instagram.
there it is.
Thank
Try it
you.
yourself. Shading using cross-hatching.
Okay, ink pen. Ink pen.
Have you ever seen or tried any of these things? Water-soluble pens and pencils. Now, you just draw normally with them, but then you brush on some water and they turn into watercolours, and you can get some great effects. But you can get a similar effect using ordinary ink inside an ordinary school fountain pen. Now, you can get lots of different coloured water-soluble inks for your school fountain pen. You can get blues, blacks, reds, greens. I've got some brown ink inside this one. And the reason I'm using brown ink is I want to create an old-fashioned effect on my picture. And again, that's why I'm using this light brown paper. And drawing with a fountain pen is slightly different to drawing with an ordinary pen or pencil. You get a sort of scratchy effect. It feels scratchy when you're drawing with it, but that all adds to this effect that I'm trying to achieve. And I'm just going to draw just a very rough sketch. Doesn't need to be perfect or anything. And I'm just going to colour that bridge in, but I'm not going to put too much ink on. See the way I'm just colouring it in, or shading it in a very sketchy way, just with long lines. And I'm just drawing this countryside scene. And now I'll just put some reflections in the water, reflection of the bridge there, and just a reflection of that shadow underneath the bridge, just hinting at the reflection there. And finally, two little duck friends down there. And there it is. Just a very rough, ordinary sketch. But watch this effect. Just take a brush and just brush some water along those ink lines. Not too much water, just enough to charge up the ink and get the ink moving a bit. You don't want to soak the picture with water. You just want to get that ink moving just a little bit to create a really wispy effect. Really atmospheric. And really suits this old-fashioned pen and wash technique, it's called. You see what happens here? Where I've put more ink on the shading of the tree, then the water picks it up and darkens that area even more, so you get a really good shading effect. And again, on the water, not too much water on your brush, just enough just to wash the ink. Hence, pen and wash. And just finally on the ducks, just enough to wash their reflections down like that. And there it is. Try it yourself, a pen and wash picture using ordinary ink and a school fountain pen.
Splat.
Right, time to move on to some of my favourite things to draw with. Chalk and charcoal. Now, they're both great because you can do so much with them. Now, for chalk, just look at how much a little chalk dust can just be used to dab onto paper with a bit of cotton wool to create a sort of, well, it's a sort of billowing cloud effect, just going in a circular motion like that, just rubbing the chalk in. See that? You get this sort of great cloudy effect. There, one more on there like that. And then it really looks like billowing clouds if you just take a stick of chalk and just pick out the edges of the clouds there, and it looks like sunlight dancing on those clouds. Great effect. And I love the way with charcoal that you can smudge the edges of the lines to make them look softer. Watch this. I just smudge the lines on the cat's body. It looks nice and soft and almost fur-like. Yeah? Now have a look at how you can use chalk and charcoal together.
Okay. Chalk and charcoal.
Brilliant art attack. Silhouettes of trees in the moonlight. Very moody and very simple. And doesn't it show you how effective light and shade can be in a picture? Well, try this. Take a dark piece of drawing paper. It can be black or it can be dark blue or a dark grey. And in the middle, just draw a moon with some chalk. And when you've drawn the moon, just smudge it out a little bit to create a hazy moonlight. Do that with your finger and then blow off the excess dust and just put the moon back in again. And then just draw in the edges of some fluffy clouds just around the moonlight there. Just the edges of these clouds.
Okay.
And just pick out the edges.
Progress cowboys.
With some.
By the way, I will see you guys in part 3.
And then